Good evening, folks, and welcome to the live stream. I hope you're all very well this evening. I trying a new format. Hopefully you like it. Of course, I have the hat. Let's see who we have on tonight. We have Roisin is here. Great to see you, Roisin. We have CGM. Great to have you on. Suzanne is here. Great to see you. Hugh is on. Great to have you on too. Maria is here. We also have Stefan. Great to see you. Viking President Stu of Stewland. Hope you're well. We have Aki's Mad. Great to see you. How's Sammy's horse? I'm not sure what that's about. Not sure I want to know. We have Young Ralph. Great to see you. Killer is on. Thanks for moderating, Killer. We have Mark Leslie. Great to see you. Who else have we got? 91 Leads is here again. Great to see you, 91 Leads. We have going down. Mark Wilkie. Great to see you. Chatty Rat is here. Great to see you. Suzanne is here. We also have Frederick. Great to see you. Hope you're well tonight. Shell is here. We also have Wim, and great to see you once again. Hope you're fine. Who else have we got? We have Yoni. Great to see you. Hope you're well. Bill Silver is here. Wayne is here. Derek, great to see you. Mandy, great to have you on. Hope you're well tonight, Mandy. We also have Raven 1983 Witch, great to see you. Now, folks, make Max break on camera. This is your mission, peeps. Oh no. We have Jackpot X, great to see you. Tories don't get tasered. Steve is here. Pete's Music, and so many more. Hope you're all very well, guys. Hope you had a nice week and you're ready for another weekend of madness. John is here as well. Hope you're well. So what we're going to talk a bit. Hopefully the sound is okay. I'm just trying something new here. Hope you like it. If you don't, I'll get rid of it. But no singing. Reagan Elite, great to see you, Reagan Elite. We have Bojo's wig. What happened to Michael Fabricant's wig? You know, oh my God! And I'll get to Bojo later on in the stream. Love the new format and the early access to videos. Yes. So this is thanks so much, President Stu. So I discovered, I don't know if it's a new feature or it's a feature I didn't know about on YouTube. So people who are members, as soon as I upload the video, I'll make it available to people who are members, so you can get to see the video before anyone else. And then, of course, I'll try and make sure there's also some exclusive content for people who are members as well. But of course, the access to Discord is the main membership benefit, not a Brexit benefit. Love the hat. Yes, the hat is amazing. I'll have to do a video on the hat. The hat is very special. Fabricant wig. This wig is on holiday this week. Fabricant isn't though. Anyway, let's get into stories for tonight. So, of course, we're going to talk about what's happening in number 10. It seems that Suella Braverman signed off on the extra money for Rwanda, not Rishi Sunak. Or maybe both of them are lying. Thanks once again, Stu. So it says here, number 10 says Suella Braverman, not Rishi Sunak, signed off on the extra £100 million payment to Rwanda. Downing Street has signalled that Suella Braverman, the former Home Secretary, was responsible for the decision to approve an extra £100 million payment to Rwanda this year. I was speaking to Political X about this. Make sure to check out the Sunday Roast this Sunday. Doing a lot of things. Political X is over here in Italy. He's travelling around Europe, making some very interesting content for the Sunday Roast and for his channel. If you're not a member, do check out Political X. But where was I going? I've lost my train of thought already. Fear of the black hat. He loses this one, Stu. He's getting beaten up. Blame someone else, I say. Yes, blame Suella Braverman. So it seems to be, of course, Suella Braverman will blame Rishi Sunak. Rishi Sunak is blaming Suella Braverman for this. But anyway, no, we were talking about this, and I asked the question. You know, this is 100 million extra. It works out at probably almost 200 or 300 million pounds. How much of this? How much accommodation could be spent, could be produced, could be provided, I should say, for people who are homeless with that £300 million? How many hospitals could be built with £300 million? At least one or two. Anyway, it goes on to say, at the lobby briefing this morning, asked who signed off the money, a Number 10 spokesperson told journalists, the Home Secretary, it's an operational decision to release funding under the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding. And asked if the payment was signed off by Rishi Sunak, the spokesperson replied, no. It's part of an existing MOU, so it's an operational decision for the Home Office to sign off. That's the usual process. It seems that the Home Office must have a shitload of money, excuse my French, but it's, 300 million. I thought there were budget cuts, but the Home Office seems to have an bottomless pit when it comes to cash. The MOU with Rwanda was agreed in April 2022 when Priti Patel was the Home Secretary and Rwanda partnership was first announced. Number 10 said today that the original MOU made it clear that payments would go to Rwanda in addition to the original 140 million. Last night, in his letter to the Select Committee chairs, Sir Matthew Rycroft, the Permanent Secretary of the Home Office, said a further payment of 100 million was made to Rwanda under the deal in April. All this money for what? To send Suella Braverman to Rwanda for a photo opportunity. The Number 10 spokesperson did not criticise Braverman over the payment or even mention her by name, but Downing Street does not always answer the government's process questions with such clarity. Sunak sacked Braverman last month, and since then she has launched a series of bitter attacks on his record over immigration. It is widely assumed she wants to replace him as party leader. Yes. So this is a bit of a back and forth, I think, between Rishi Sunak and Suella Braverman. She wants to unseat him, and he's throwing back this, well, it was not me that signed off on this, it was you. It's an operational cost. So as we saw here, the Home Office has been ordered to give payments the full and frank costings of the scheme to deport migrants to Rwanda after admitting projected initial spending had doubled to almost £300 million. £300 million. Just think about that for a moment. How much could have been done with that money? And I think it was a Labour MP came out and said that money could have been spent to reduce the backlog. You would have reduced the backlog by about 400,000 or something. He's got a ferret as a wig piece. Michael Fabricant, I presume. Humza Yousaf, Scotland's First Minister, has said a court ruling saying the UK government was entitled to veto the Scottish Parliament's Gender Recognition Reform Bill shows devolution is fundamentally flawed. So whether you agree with the Gender Recognition Reform Bill or not, it does prove that whatever Scotland wants to put through its parliament, it can be vetoed by Westminster. No individuals will receive a penalty from the Metropolitan Police regarding a gathering in Parliament on December 2020, the force has said. Senior Downing Street officials have flown to Delhi to kickstart talks over a multi-billion-pound free trade agreement, with the government of Modi having indicated that it is keen to finalise a deal in the next 3 months. Yeah, so the Brexiteers would love to have a trade deal with India, so they can say, we have a trade deal with India. But they don't want you to actually look into what the trade deal contains, because, of course, it would require the UK accepting more migrants from India. And, of course, that wouldn't go down well with the racists and bigots. Ah, my goodness. Anyway, let's have a look at the Rwanda Bill in a bit more detail.
So this is the legislation that Rishi Sunak hopes will enable planes to go to Rwanda containing migrants. This is also the legislation that will determine Rishi Sunak's future. It's highly controversial. Let's look at the detail. First big principle of this bill, it declares Rwanda safe. You might remember the Supreme Court just a few weeks ago saying Rwanda was not a safe country for migrants. Well, here we have a piece of legislation that simply says that it is. It says
That's it. We just say that it is. Every decision maker must conclusively treat the Republic of Rwanda as a safe country. That's it. They haven't actually deemed it safe. They just said it's safe. That's like saying, Donald Trump is a billionaire. It's like, let's not look at his bank account. Let's just presume that he's a billionaire. In the same way, let's just presume Rwanda is a safe country. They haven't actually changed anything. They haven't said, this is what Rwanda have done to change their status from non-safe country to safe country.
In the bill, every decision maker must conclusively treat the Republic of Rwanda as a safe country. This legislation says a court or tribunal must not consider a review or appeal brought on the grounds that the Republic of Rwanda is not a safe country.
No, but the
problem... agree?
Well,
the UK could.
Okay, but the problem with that is that as soon as you say Rwanda's a safe country, then how is it a deterrent? They keep saying that, well, we don't want to send... nobody wants to come to Britain because if they come to Britain, they'll be sent to Rwanda. And Rwanda's a horrible place. But now they're saying it's actually a safe country. So which is it? A deterrent or a safe country? Lefty Boater. Delay net zero. Have a policy whose effect on refugees number is net zero. Ironically, really, yes. Yeah. Let's not do anything about mitigating climate change. And that will result, of course, with more people coming in as refugees as a result of climate change. They just don't care. If they truly cared about bringing down the numbers, they would be really concerned about climate change. But if you ask the right wing, they don't. Some of them don't even believe in climate change. Back in the day, thank you so much for that super chat. The UK is so screwed, it's not even funny anymore. It's really sad because these charlatans should have been out in their ear a long time ago. Boris Johnson kept going for how long? Liz Truss, okay, she lasted 5 minutes. But Liz Truss is now going around on right-wing media presenting herself as some sort of oracle. And then Rishi Sunak is clinging on because he wants to probably make some money for himself and his family before he's removed from office. And there's talk now that the election may not take place until 2025. Why? Well, because it seems that the Tories may decide to replace Rishi Sunak with maybe Suella Braverman or Kemi Badenoch, and then they will have a run until the end of the year, until the end of the session. So they will stay in power until 2025. The idea being, well, let's replace Rishi Sunak, who's unpopular, with somebody who's a bit more popular, and give them a chance to try and turn things around. For the party, not for the country. It's about the party, about protecting the party, of course. Thanks back in the day. We have Luke. Thank you so much, Luke. Very kind of you for those memberships. One for Hugh, one for 91 Leads, one for Amaxi, one for Joseph, and one for DW. Hey, thank you so much, Luke, Andrew. Very kind of you. Thanks so much for that. So what does Lord Sumpton have to say?
Do judges agree?
The UK courts will do what parliamentary legislation tells them to do, whether they like it or not. This is a very extreme bill. It's completely unprecedented. It essentially requires the courts not only to assume that Rwanda is safe, whether it is or not, it must also assume that Rwanda will honour its undertakings under the treaty.
Any attempt to stop international law from applying is going to upset potentially some in the centre of the Conservative Party. So what have they done? A court or tribunal must not consider any claim or complaint that the Republic of Rwanda will or may remove or send a person to another state in contravention of any of its international obligations. This tells British courts to ignore international law. And it's quite specific about it. Look at this. They are called notwithstanding clauses, and it says that you must ignore the Human Rights Act and this, any interpretation of international law by the court or tribunal. That actually is...
Oh my goodness. You see what they're trying to do here. Now, the Human Rights Act is fundamental to the Good Friday Agreement. So what they're trying to do is they're going to disallow the Human Rights Act when it comes to people in regards to Rwanda. So it's going to be people in regards to Rwanda who will not have their human rights protected. So this is their, I think, loophole, or not loophole, but get out of jail clause. This is their way of working around the problem of the European Convention on Human Rights. So they can't disapply the European Convention on Human Rights. They're trying to disapply the European Convention on Human Rights when it comes to certain people. But I don't think that would stand up in court. You can't have laws for individuals or laws against individuals. It applies to everyone, or it applies to nobody. So I think I don't think this is flawed. Like, I'm not an expert, but even I know that you can't have a law for some people and a law for others.
Is a reference to the European Convention of Human Rights. And I think that is one of the most controversial things. Let's look at another problem, which is an apparent loophole for individuals. What do we mean? Well, it's this section. Of course, this legislation is designed to stop people appealing against attempts to send them to Rwanda. But look at this. It does not prevent a court or tribunal considering a review brought on the grounds that the Republic of Rwanda is not a safe country for the person in question if it relates specifically to a person's individual circumstances. So if there are very specific circumstances, they can appeal according to this. Now, the government says...
What are those conditions? What are those circumstances?
This will apply in a very small number of circumstances, but those on the right of the Tory party worry that this is a backdoor Trojan horse that could allow lots of appeals. They're not happy with this.
It's a waste of time. All of this, even if it were true, even if it were to work, we're talking about a few hundred people going to Rwanda. And Tory MPs were asked, and government ministers were asked about, well, what about people coming from Rwanda? And it'll just be a handful. Can you put a number on that? A very little number. Very small. Not a huge number of people. How much? Are we talking 50? I can't be specific. A bunch of charlatans. Anyway, let's move on. Top civil servant summoned by MPs over increasing cost of Rwanda policy, or Rwanda Plan. The Home Office's most senior civil servant has been summoned to give evidence to a committee of MPs on Monday after he revealed the cost of the government's Rwanda Plan had risen by 100 million despite no planes having taken off. Ministers signed the deal with the African nation in 2022 with the aim of deporting asylum seekers to the country if they came to the UK via illegal means, such as small boat channel crossings. But while the price tag for the scheme has been set at 140 million, another 100 million has been paid to the Rwandan government since, with a further 50 million due to be paid later in the year. There has been furious reaction from opposition parties, with Labour dubbing it a total farce. However, Downing Street has insisted the original agreement stated the deal involved subsequent funding. The Home Office Minister, Lord Sharp, told peers that it was good value for money. How is it good value for money? Saying it equated to the cost of housing asylum seekers in hotels for 30 days. But if nobody is going, like, I don't think anyone should be going, but if nobody is going, then how are you saving money? The people are still in the hotels. Nobody has been sent. So how are you saving money? How is it good value for money? Yeah, £290 million. We're apparently skint. Is it when it comes to free school meals for children? That's too expensive. Can't afford that. When it comes to, providing funding for, insulating homes that would protect people from rising energy prices. No, there's no money. When it comes to rebuilding schools and hospitals, no, I'm sorry, there's no money. But when it comes to Rwanda, throw as much money at it as possible. £300 million. And this 300 million is to do what? It's to keep a few racists and bigots within the Conservative Party and outside the Conservative Party happy for about 24 hours. Because we've seen before, these people are never satisfied. Those asylum hotel contracts are still in effect for years to come legally. Yeah, I can imagine that the hotels will be empty and the government will still be paying for them because they have probably a multi-year contract. Nobody mentioned UBI, Camden. But yes, we need a UBI. How much would a UBI cost? Probably about £15 billion, which is a lot of money, but it would put money in people's pockets. They would spend it in the economy, and it would create growth. 5.7 million GP appointments could have been paid for. My goodness. It's the magic money tree only exists when it suits the Tories. Yes. Who said UBI? Oh, you guys are very sly. In an angry response, the two chairs, Labour MPs Dame Meg Hiller and Dame Diana Johnson, accused the civil servant of an extreme lack of respect for committees, adding that they would have expected more transparency from him in his previous appearances and saw no reason to having avoided the topic. It's like, yeah, why didn't you mention the £100 million before? It slipped my mind. Of course, the civil servants here are protecting the government ministers, because it's the government minister that signs off on these things at the end. A civil servant doesn't have the power to write a cheque for £100 million. Not one. It's impossible. So who should be answering questions is, yes, the civil servant and the Home Secretary, the previous one, Suella Braverman. But of course, Suella Braverman is not a member of cabinet, so she probably doesn't actually have to answer questions anymore. But as an MP, she should be dragged in front of that committee and asked very serious questions. Why the hell did you send this money? What's this money going to do? How can you be spending money like this during a cost of living crisis? On Fantasy Island, Boss, the boats. Look forward to seeing the committee on Monday. Yes, that should be interesting. Oh my goodness. Anyway, let's... Home Office order to give full cost of Rwanda deportation plan. So this is the same story just from The Guardian. Akismad, thank you so much for that support. Very kind of you. Thank you so much, Akismad. Anyway, let's move on.
Tuesday is the red letter day in the Prime Minister's diary right now, the second reading of this Rwanda bill. He desperately needs it to pass, and he wants it to pass very comfortably through the House of Commons to make sure that the House of Lords doesn't take its signal from a rebellion there to delay the bill and tamper with it. But there's a bigger threat than that. It only takes 29 Tory MPs to vote against the bill, and it is sunk. Now, Rishi Sunak's today saying it's not an issue of confidence, this bill. He doesn't resign if that vote is lost. But if you lose a bill of this magnitude, having parked so much of your reputation on it, then you don't survive very long afterwards, is the normal rule of politics.
Yes, because this is not some marginal bill. This is the immigration bill. This is part of the manifesto, well, not part of the manifesto, but it's what Rishi Sunak has staked so much upon, stopping the boats. You know, the whole thing that everything that the Tories are talking about now revolves around immigration. We need to focus on immigration. It's the priority of the British people, and this is the bill that needs to go through Parliament. It's going to bring down the numbers. It's going to start sending people to Rwanda. You need to back it. And of course, if they don't back it, and all they need is 29 rebels, and they probably have about 30, then it's sunk.
Even if he did win that vote comfortably, though, the mood is so febrile amongst Tory MPs that there could be a vote of no confidence. That requires 53 Tory MPs, not so far round the corner. There could be a rebellion at another stage in the bill. Things are in a very testy state in the Tory party. Rishi Sunak at his press conference today looked like a man who knew that and really didn't like it. Rishi Sunak used to boast he'd calmed down politics after the turmoil of Liz Truss's premiership. Amongst the MPs convinced the party needed to unite around him, one Robert Jenrick.
We've got to come together. We've got one shot now to get us right.
He decided that shot had misfired. Yesterday, He quit as immigration minister, David Cameron amongst those who tried to get him to stay.
Are you convinced that Mr Cleverly's plan won't work?
Trailing in behind the new Home Secretary, two brand new immigration ministers. They heard the Prime Minister attack those who challenged his new policy.
I'm determined to actually fix this problem, and the people who want to do something else clearly don't, because I'm confident this will work.
Some legal experts...
But how is it going to work? It's not going to work. It's not designed to work. It's a distraction. It's a distraction from your failing policies. It's a distraction from NHS crumbling hospitals and the NHS crumbling itself. It's a distraction from the cost of living crisis. It's a distraction from your failures. And it's not designed to work.
Experts think Rishi Sunak may actually have come up with a bill that prevents legal challenges and means deportations to Rwanda could happen.
I am entirely confident that what we're doing is the right approach. I have spent weeks, if not months, in the last few periods.
Why don't they just fill a plane with mannequins and send that? Because that'd be good enough for, the headbangers. If the Express took a picture of a plane full of mannequins, they would say, well, they're probably real people. That would be enough. And then they'd be off his back.
Getting this right, working through it with multiple lawyers, making sure that we have something that is legally watertight.
I think he is broadly right. There is a very narrow exception, which is about people who complain that even though Rwanda might be safe in general, it's not safe for them because of some particular characteristic that they have.
Rishi Sunak insists...
But the Supreme Court said that it's not safe. It's not that it's not safe for specific people. It's not safe in general. Don't know what he was talking about there. Yes, it's a distraction from the Tories' problems we have, the Tories' problems we have in this country. Send Sunak to Rwanda on a small boat. This plan will not work and he knows it.
There was barely an inch between himself and his party critics, but he knows some of them are now seeking his downfall and see his Rwanda policy as the rock on which to break him.
I want to finish the job, right? And finishing the job means getting this legislation on the statute books and getting this scheme up and running. I am determined to see that through.
I think a lot of people are getting flashbacks. It looks like the parliamentary party is yet again sort of slightly taking leave of its senses. And we literally do now have people potentially talking about a leadership election, which is obviously insane. But the fact that people are...
But we're talking about the Conservative Party here. We're talking about the people who put Boris Johnson in charge, the people who put Liz Truss in charge. So you can't talk about insanity now, because that ship has sailed. We've gone way through insanity, and we've come out the other side, and we're all a lot worse because of it. This idea that they would have another leadership campaign, leadership contest, that would be insane. No, it's not insane, because they've done it before. So it's highly possible that what they'll do is they'll bring down Rishi Sunak and they'll put one of their own people in charge, because that's what they want. They don't want to go into a general election. But the thing is, they can't push Rishi Sunak unless they're going to give him something in return. Because if they don't give him something in return, there's a chance that he will... all hail the tricorn. There's a chance that he would pull the plug and call an early election, and then he'll be throwing them under a bus, because many of them will lose their seats. Because if you think about it as a Conservative MP who's on the line at the moment, they're going to lose their seat. There's a chance that, well, we could stay in power for another 6 months, another 12 months even. So let's go along with that. But in order to achieve that, we need to replace Rishi Sunak with somebody else. We can't hold on to him, because we're not going to be able to hold the party together. So they may, unfortunately, replace Sunak with some lunatic like Suella Braverman or Kemi Badenoch, and then try to restart the party once again. Because it's about protecting the party. That's what it's always about. They don't give a shit about the country. They don't give a crap about people's lives. It's about protecting the Conservative Party first and foremost.
We're talking about it now. There is a febrile mood.
Some think Sir Graham Brady, the messenger of doom who counts the letters demanding a vote of no confidence, could soon be walking up Downing Street with bad tidings yet again. One plotter said recent history suggests Rishi Sunak would probably win a vote of no confidence, but not last long.
The parliamentary party...
Yes, he could win it, but if there is a significant rebellion, then it will be over, because But of course, Rishi Sunak doesn't want to go in this way. He would prefer to resign with some sort of victory behind him. But it's been a whole waste of time. There should have been a general election last year. Rishi Sunak should not have taken over. When Boris Johnson left, there should have been a general election. That was the time. The Tories would have been out on their ear, and a new government would have been in place, and they would be at least trying to fix problems. Instead, you have this shower. Guys, we're about halfway through the stream, so let's take a short break, and we'll be back in just a jiffy with more serious stuff, but we can watch this together, as always.
Minister, we're learning from this COVID inquiry that the government's response to the pandemic was an absolute disaster, one of the highest death rates in Europe.
No, I don't accept that. No, not according to the stats we have.
Right, which stats are those?
The stats for a completely different time period.
I see, yes.
Look, we had to weigh up difficult decisions. Yes, people died, but also, on the other hand, we got Brexit done. And I think that's what the public wanted on balance.
Your former leader doesn't seem to remember an awful lot of that time period.
That's largely why we elected him.
And neither does his phone. You don't seem to have understood or learnt anything from the inquiry.
No. On the contrary, we've learned that for the next pandemic, we shouldn't let Boris Johnson anywhere near the steering wheel. And we've already put that into action by getting rid of him and putting someone in who had nothing to do with decision-making during that pandemic, Rishi Sunak.
Yes, you've banished Boris Johnson to the Rwanda of the Conservative Party.
The Daily Mail, yes, exactly. There's no greater deterrent.
But he's eyeing a possible comeback,
yes,
I've noticed.
Just like the Rwanda policy, this is impossible to enforce.
Minister, thank you.
Thank you.
It's like Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson is the Rwanda of the situation. We have Freckle Pony. Thank you so much for that super chat. Vote out to help out. Yes, vote the Tories out to help out. That's the way to go. Thanks so much, Freckle Pony. Yes. Hopefully it will work. So they were mentioning Brexit. Let's stick with Brexit for a moment. Let me check there isn't I'll come back to your comments in just a moment. Part-time and shift workers to lose up to £248 million holiday pay in UK rule change. Ministers are cutting holiday allocation and pay for irregular and part-time workers at a cost to staff of up to £248 million a year. So on the one hand, they're throwing £300 million at Rwanda and achieving nothing. And on the other hand, they're cutting protections for workers because of Brexit to the value of £248 million per workers. The government is changing how holiday days and pay are calculated for people who do not work full-time throughout the year, such as shift workers, school employees, and those on 0-hour contracts. Okay, the most wealthy in society. George, great to see you on the stream. If I could whisper in Rishi Sunak's ear, I'd tell him, call a general election, and that way you could at least reunite the party. Yes, they'd back that at least. Well said. But this is disgraceful. So they're cutting these protections for the most vulnerable workers in society. The same people they came out and told you need to vote for Brexit because it's the EU that's undermining your chances of survival, it's undermining your right to work, undermining your right to live. This will mean that instead of receiving full holiday rights at the beginning of the year, in the same way as full-time workers, 5 million British workers on temporary and irregular contracts will have to gradually gain them during the year. Experts say the change is one of the most significant erosions of employment protection since the UK left the EU Working Time Directive. I remember some years ago somebody phoned into the James O'Brien show and she was talking about how she voted to leave. She voted for Brexit because she was sick of the Working Time Directive. And James well said to James. He replied and says, "Who's been forcing you to work extra hours?" And she went, "Well, it wasn't for me. It was like I wanted to force my staff to work more hours." Oh my goodness. Well, boil my frog. Well said, Jim Speak. Yes. Little by little, they're taking away people's rights. First, the right to protest, then worker rights, environmental protections. We saw raw sewage being pumped into rivers and lakes. All of these things, these protections that were in place as part of EU membership are gone. So when it came to convincing people why they should vote for Brexit, it was, well, things will get better. Get better for who? For the companies who want to pump raw sewage into rivers and lakes. For companies who want to abuse their staff, take advantage of their staff. Justin Madders, the Shadow Minister for Employment Rights, said this government rebuffed Labour's efforts to protect paid holidays. They've well and truly shattered their manifesto pledge to level up rights at work. Labour's New Deal is our plan to make work pay, ensure high growth, high wage economy, underpinned by job security and strong rights at work. I hope what Labour would be doing is rolling back the Tory policy, reinstating the EU legislation. Labour officials could not guarantee, however, they would overturn the change if they won the next general election. This is really frustrating because Labour will say, yeah, the Tory policy is a disaster. It's damaging workers. And then they're asked, well, will you overturn it? Well, maybe. It's like, it takes time. We have a parliament that we need to run. There's so much legislation we need to put in. But what about these things, these rights for workers? Are you going to focus on that? Well, we'll see, but we'll get round to it at some stage. Labour officials could not guarantee. The change follows a protracted legal battle between Leslie Brazel, a music teacher on a 0-hour contract, and the school trust that employed her over whether she could get the same amount of holiday pay as her colleagues on full-time contracts. The Supreme Court ruled last year that she should, prompting consternation among organisations that employ people on temporary or 0-hour contracts. In response, the ministers in the business department said that they would issue new rules to overturn the court's ruling and ensure that companies can issue holiday days and pay on a pro rata basis after all. Here you have it, once again, that they would issue new rules to overturn the court's ruling. See, this is what they're trying to do. This is what the Tories have been doing since Brexit. Removing people's rights. They get challenged in the court. The court says, actually, these are people's rights. And then what do they do? They introduce new legislation to overrule the court. What's the point in having a court? This is why they're so adamant about leaving the European Convention on Human Rights, to turning the UK into Belarus. Because they don't want people to be able to take things to the Supreme Court, to the European Court on Human Rights. Because it's not about refugees, it's not about asylum seekers, it's about this. This is what it's all about. They don't give a crap about asylum seekers. It's not about them. It's about taking rights away from British people. Eliminating people's chances of taking companies to court. That's what the Tories care about protecting businesses, about stripping people's rights away. A government analysis published this week revealed that the change will be so wide-ranging that it will save employers between 50 million and 240 million pounds every year. So save businesses, employers, not workers. Workers are going to suffer. And of course, who are the most vulnerable workers, the worst paid workers are on 0-hour contracts or on temporary contracts. Officials said, however, that the estimates that the number of people who will lose out are uncertain, as it's unclear how many employers would actually be abiding by the rules set out by the Supreme Court. It is very difficult to know exactly how many employers would follow the previous case law, so the figures involved are speculative and likely a significant overestimate, a spokesperson said. Yeah, gaslighting. Nothing to see here. Move along, please. Officials said that they're unable to issue the new rules in part because Britain has left the EU and with its strict labour laws covered by the Working Time Directive. Richard Arthur, head of the trade union at Thomson Solicitors, said, This move takes advantage of what the government is allowed to do post-Brexit. The government is taking that opportunity and bringing in new rules to the advantage of employers. You know, there is a Brexit benefit. You never hear Jacob Rees-Mogg talking about, see, now we're able to treat people on 0-hour contracts and temporary contracts like shit. There's a Brexit benefit. We couldn't do that before. Now we can. This, if I was invited onto some show, I would love to be invited onto some show. I would say, here is a Brexit benefit, everyone. Businesses can now treat their employees like shit, like crap, or whatever language you're allowed to use on the BBC. And this is it. This is what Brexit was all about. Taking away protections for workers, taking away protections for the environment, benefiting unscrupulous employers and companies who want to, pollute the environment. And in order to achieve that, they need a vehicle. It's like Reform UK. Reform UK and the likes of Reform UK, they can't come out and say, well, we want to take away people's rights. So they need a vehicle. So they've been using things like ULS or the environment, net zero. We need to avoid net zero because that's going to bring in regulations, and we don't want those because our donors would prefer to have no regulations. And the Tories are the same. They can't come out and say we're stripping away people's rights and protections for the environment. Can't come out and say that. So you have to find some other way. And of course, immigration is a great way to do it. Let's get rid of the European Convention on Human Rights. Let's become like Belarus. Then companies can do what they want. Oh no, we can't say that. It's because we need to stop boats. Yes. Stop asylum seekers. Asylum seekers are the problem. Immigrants are the problem. We need to bring down immigration. AMAXC, thank you so much for that super chat. Love the new layout, Max. Class. Andrew from Dundalk. Thank you so much, Andrew. I hope, thanks. People seem to like the hat, so that's good. Try and do it on the Sunday roast as much as possible. Sometimes I forget. I have it in another place. Like, where's the hat? Where's the hat? But I here it is now. I'm not going to lose it again. Thanks so much, AMAXC. Another Brexit story for you guys. Jeremy Hunt. Remember Jeremy Hunt? He was a Remainer. Now he seems to be a Brexiteer. Jeremy Hunt, post-Brexit city shake-up is damp squib, says MPs. Jeremy Hunt's post-Brexit city shake-up has been dismissed as a damp squib that has had little impact on the UK economy a year after its launch. The Chancellor announced the bold collection of policy changes known as the Edinburgh Reforms in December 2022, with which the claim that they would create jobs, support businesses and power growth across all 4 nations of the UK. It sounds like another attempt to get rid of EU regulations. Yeah, he's a CNUT. Max has the hat, Alex has the lava lamp, and I have the orb. The orb is the all-controlling orb. Are you following Graham Hughes and his hat? No, I had the hat before Graham. Well, no, maybe Graham has always had the hat. So this is a different type of hat. So I'm not encroaching on Graham Hughes's territory. Anyway, Parliament's Treasury Committee, however, found on Friday that the reforms were peppered with mere proprietary work that had disappointingly failed to deliver on Hunt's big promises. The committee said, from what has been completed so far, the subcommittee is of the view that none of the achievements to date will make a substantial difference to the UK economy. The conclusions followed a formal review of the 31-point package of measures designed to review, repeal and replace a host of EU rules, as well as some introduced as a result of the financial crisis, which the government believed was hindering the success of London's banks and insurers. So this Edinburgh reform, it seems, was about removing protections that were put in place, guardrails, if you want, put in place to protect the economy from another crash. So in particular, to force banks to... Max, how about an eye patch and a parrot? Not that type of hat, okay. But it was brought in to protect the economy and to protect banks from themselves, because of course banks were speculating, and it brought some of them down. So these measures were brought in after the financial crisis to make sure that it didn't happen again. So what are the Tories doing? Well, let's remove these protections. Who needs a guardrail? Who needs, a seatbelt? Who needs an airbag? Who needs a brake? Let's just go straight in a straight line as fast as we can and hope for the best. This is the type of things that the Tories have been doing. It's just getting worse and worse. This is, of course, they're doing it because it allows speculators within banks or within financial institutions to speculate more and increase the risk. Excuse me. And if they increase the risk, of course, there is a higher payout. So there's a bigger bonus. Because if the risk is very low, then your bonus is going to be insignificant. But if the risk is very high, there's a chance that you make a lot of money for your company. And then, of course, your bonus is going to be really big. But you can't risk a lot if there's a guardrail in place. So if the politicians remove the guardrail, then you're free to speculate as much as you want. Because these people will make a huge amount of money one day, and then the company will collapse, whatever, and then they'll be hired by another company. Questionable in obscenity. Thank you so much for that super chat. This country has been taken over by foreigners. Yes, foreigners own the businesses, being given the option to exploit us and our resources for money. Yes, well said. Okay, the people who've been convinced to hate foreigners are the ones who are happy to see, Boris Johnson in charge. Boris Johnson was not born in Britain. Or the owners of the newspapers. They're all living abroad. They all have their money in offshore bank accounts. They're not patriots. If they want British people to be angry with foreigners, a particular group of foreigners, of course, not with newspaper barons or the people who own all the land, apart from the king. Fabricants is really Dougal. The risk is that of failure. Yes, and then if the financial institutions do collapse, well, the state is there to step in and bail them out. So Jeremy Hunt's Brexit benefit was really nothing. So going from one madness to another madness, Sadiq Khan condemns grotesque, irresponsible ULS Camera Explosion in Sidcup. Here's some footage, I think. What the hell happened here? So, an explosion that damaged an ultra-low emission zone camera and nearby vehicles in southeast London, has been branded grotesquely irresponsible by the Mayor of London spokesperson. The blast, which happened around 6:45 p.m. on Wednesday evening, damaged a ULS camera in Sidcup. No one was injured from the explosion, but vehicles and a residential property were damaged. The Met Police said a low sophistication improvised explosion device, IED, was used to carry out the attack. Now, this is the damage it did to the camera. But can you imagine if somebody had, like a child, had gone on, if it had fallen on the ground and a child went to pick it up, it would have probably killed the child. And why are these people doing this? Because they've been egged on by politicians, egged on by the likes of GB News or Talk TV. running stories about how ULEZ is stealing from people, how it's Sadiq Khan taking over, or Sadiq Khan acting like some sort of dictator. Egged on by the Conservative Party as well, because they thought they could use it as a wedge issue. Oh, look, what we can do is we can try and use ULEZ against the Labour Party. We can use it against Sadiq Khan. It's disgraceful, because there are lunatics who will listen to this, and the lunatics will come out and do things like this. It's fortunate that, it's really lucky that nobody was hurt. What's his name, Fox? Probably. Yes. These people are insane, but the people doing the action are insane, but the people egging them on are doing it for political reasons. The right-wing media, of course, trying to use anything they can against Sadiq Khan. ULEZ. He didn't introduce ULEZ. Who did? Their hero, Boris Johnson. He was the one who introduced ULEZ in the beginning. But now it's a problem. What will Lecky cars drive to? Do they have rolling power cuts? When we have rolling power? Yeah, that'll be a problem. You'd have to charge your electric car by a hamster wheel or something. The Susan Hall anti-ULEZ gammon squad in action. Where's my Oyster card? Well said, Sir Larry the cat. Yeah, we have to laugh about these things because it's just, otherwise you'll cry. But seriously, somebody could have been seriously hurt by this, or killed, egged on by these fucking idiots. Speaking of charlatans and those egging on idiots, we're brought to this story.
Arriving under darkness hours before giving evidence, prompting calls of cowardice from his critics.
Sir Patrick Vallence's diary is 273901, page 92.
But Boris Johnson found nowhere to hide when confronted with his...
No, there was no fridge there. They tried to get a fridge installed, but it was too late. It got stuck in traffic. It was the damn... the fridge was on its way, but it was the damn... What do you call it? No stop oil people. They blocked the traffic, and then and Boris Johnson couldn't get his fridge in time.
Own words about letting the virus rip through our most vulnerable communities.
The Prime Minister meeting begins to argue for letting it rip, saying yes, there will be more casualties, but so be it. They've had a good innings.
They've had good innings.
Family members inside the hearing room.
So there's so much wrong with this. Boris Johnson arrived 3 hours before in order to avoid the victims' families. Like, if he had any... If he truly believed he had done the right thing, he would have went out and met with those family members, their grieving families, and explained to them exactly what he did. But no, he's a fucking coward. 3 hours before, under the cover of darkness, going into this hearing. Disgraceful.
We heard expressing their anger. The same families that were forced to separate from their loved ones while Johnson led parties inside Downing Street.
So many of them who suffered horrific grief during lockdown. We all know that it's far more traumatic even than many other kinds of grief. And then I'm afraid Partygate has been called exacerbated.
Of course, and I totally understand their feelings, and what can I do but again apologise for mistakes that we made in number 10.
Johnson argued that...
Apologise for mistakes made in number 10. He hasn't said, I'm sorry that people died on my watch. He hasn't said, I'm sorry that we made mistakes that resulted in people dying. I'm sorry that we fucked up. I'm sorry that we partied while we told people not to party, not to even have gatherings at all. But he's not sorry. He's sorry he was caught. That's what he's sorry about.
As he was himself admitted to an ICU in April 2020, the near-death experience had made him understand the risk posed by COVID.
And it goes to what we mean.
This has been a very difficult...
I'm sorry, guys. There was a bit of buffering, but I think it seems maybe has fixed itself again. hopefully it's resolved now. Johnson killed the stream. We're almost at the end of the stream anyway. Oh no, buffering. Maybe it's fixed. Yeah, it's fixed now. Okay. Yeah, it just disconnected for a moment, reconnected. But what Boris breaks everything. But what's really worrying about this is that Johnson presents himself as, well, I went into hospital. I was like those people. And then I remember at the time saying, well, hopefully when he comes out, he will have a road to Damascus conversion. He will actually care about the NHS. He will care about making sure that that the people on the front line have everything that they need and are able to deal with this crisis. And no, he went back to the way he was before, trying to play down the figures, play down the impact of the virus, play down the effectiveness of the lockdowns, avoiding lockdowns at all, and then making his jokes in Parliament, turning it into some sort of political football. That doesn't sound like somebody who is on death's door. That doesn't sound like somebody who actually had some sort of conversion or life-changing experience.
Difficult day for Boris Johnson. When the former Prime Minister is allowed to talk about wider government policy, then he appears to be much more comfortable. But when he's confronted with the evidence of his own words, well, that's much harder.
You need to have a conscience for that, Max. You're right. You're right, Bill. Johnson got better treatment than normal NHS patients because he was a VIP, because he was special, probably. And then you would have thought that after that he would have changed his tune, but obviously that's not the case. Guys, we're almost at the end of the story. I just want to show you there's an interesting story here. It's a nice story, just to change, lighten the mood a little bit, of a teenager in Scotland. Who lives in the 1940s. Not Jacob Rees-Mogg, okay? He's a little bit more modern than Jacob Rees-Mogg, but this was a cute story.
I'm Callum Grubb, I'm 19, and this is my first car that I've bought myself, my 1938 Austin 10 Cambridge. I've always been fascinated with history, the 30s and the 40s, so of course when I was getting my car it would have to be an old one. It was never going to be a modern car. 11, 12, that's when I decided I really wanted one and that I'd start saving up for one. So there was little bits of pocket money and things like that, little jobs I would do, little bits of pocket money again, put it away. And then when I was still at high school I got my part-time job. Then parts of my wages were going away, which of course helped it mount up.
But he bought this with pocket money? I don't believe... Oh god damn it, we had some buffering again. But like, how did he afford to pay for this? That's really weird.
Up a lot quicker.
He was quite young and he was with Grandad and myself a lot, and they used to love old...
Sorry, it's... Sorry, it's back up on it's Jacob MacMark. Oh my god. Okay, sorry, back to the video.
Steam trains, and John had some cars, little cars, and Callum liked all the older styled ones, which we used to think was quite funny.
This is the original invoice that I got with that would come with the car at the time. That's the cost there, £215, 16 shillings and 11 pence.
Okay, but you didn't pay that.
Right, you've got things like your trafficators. There we are.
Would this pass an MOT? Like, I understand it's a classic car, but you're not allowed to drive classic cars on the road all the time, are you? Sorry, number 3 said I don't get what's so funny. It was somebody had made a comment about Jacob Rees-Mogg and then MOT exempt. Wow, okay. No, somebody called him Jacob MacMark, because he's from Scotland. Yeah, to police, yes. MOT exempt and tax exempt. See, that's what you need. This is the solution to the cost of living crisis. Buy a classic car. But whatever you save in MOT, you'll pay back in petrol.
Oh, your windscreen opens.
And maintenance.
Like so.
It's cool, isn't it?
Which I'm sure will be lovely on a hot summer's day. I've not had that chance yet though. And there's the anti-dazzle as well. That's a blind. Sitting in this car, driving along in it, you really get a sense of the history. More than you'd ever get standing seeing them static in a museum. Well said, well said. You know, the car needs to be used. The car is there to be driven. It's not to be sitting in a museum. I love this guy. Jacob MacMark. And I mean, and a lot of these cars in museums and whatnot will never go again. That's them for the rest of their lives in a museum. And that's not what they're there for. They're meant to be used and enjoyed. And so yeah, that's what I'm doing. That's a nice story. Whoosh, 25-mile-an-hour top end. Yes, yeah. So you'll have fewer accidents. People will not be like boy racers crashing their cars all over the place. So I can't even see the message on all messages. I'm sorry. Mog is pre-enlightenment. Yes. 27 miles an hour downhill. Does he need a ration book to buy petrol for that? Yeah, that'd be interesting. He's thinking ahead. We think he's thinking in the past, but he's actually planning ahead, because that's the Tories want to turn Britain into. So guys, we're almost at the end of the stream. I want to say thank you so much to everyone who came on. Thank you so much for your support. Thanks to to everyone who sent a super chat, and thanks to the moderators for doing a wonderful job. Oh, actually, before we finish, we had this one story I forgot. Let's bring this up straight away, and then we'll go. Tory MPs divided over social media attack on Labour using pic of BBC presenter. Do they have the picture here? Here we go. Labour, when you asked for their plans to tackle illegal migration. So the Conservatives have posted this image. So this is, of course, a BBC presenter. I think it was giving the finger to the Tories before a news story. Well said, whoever she is. And well played. Well, the Conservatives, the Labour Party have responded by saying, well, this is the Tories' response to everything like the cost of living crisis, crumbling schools and things like this. So it was a good comeback. Anyway, so we're almost to finish, guys. I want to say thank you so much once again to everyone who came on. Thanks for smashing the like button. Thanks to the moderators for doing a wonderful job. And thanks to everyone who sent a super chat. Greatly appreciated. Before we finish, of course, we have our one for the road. Hope you enjoy this. I will. Oh, where is it? Here we go.
Welcome to Broken News. Reports are coming in from Westminster of the sad death of a cat. The government has just made the announcement, and it looks set to dominate the news for the foreseeable future. Our reporter has more.
It was at a hastily arranged press conference here at Downing Street where we, along with the rest of the compliant UK media, learned of the unfortunate demise of this cat. Before today, Broken News had been investigating allegations of substantial corruption in government and looking at numerous claims that a senior MP has for years been a big old sweaty nonce. But all of that unimportant news has now totally paled into insignificance by the unexpected passing of this unlucky feline. The government earlier presented the fallen tabby for broadcast and print media. They laid the former furball out on a table, and we all turned our undivided attention to its dead, stinking carcass, taking loads of pictures and vids so we could report the hell out of it and nothing else, like good boys and girls. It's the 78th little kitty cat to have died this year, meaning the news cycle has been somewhat dominated by the perpetually persistent perishing of these poor pussies. And one member of the opposition has claimed all these snuffed out snugglebums are a distraction from something far more sinister. But just as we were putting that to the number 10 press office, another cat sadly died. We'll get you more on that dead one as soon as we have it. But for now, back to you.
What a lovely story. Well, a brief look at other news, and let's get the latest on the inquiry into serious allegations that the senior MP gave sexual favours in return for... Oh, and I'm just hearing about the sad and unexpected death of a cat. We'll have a special feature-length programme paying tribute to that cat later on tonight, and Broken News will interrupt all scheduled broadcasts for a dedicated week of programmes on this tragic story. That's all from Broken News. You're up to date.
Wonderful, wonderful. No, Sir Larry the cat is still with us, thank goodness. So guys, have a great weekend. Make sure to check out Sunday Roast on Sunday. It's usual bad time, usual bad channel. And if I don't see you then, I'll see you on Tuesday on same bad time, same bad channel here. Have a great weekend, guys, and as always, stay safe, take care. I should wave. Bye.